Thank you, everybody. So glad that you're joining us today. So for the newest installment of What's the Point? Today we're going to be talking about what's the point of tasks and notes. Hopefully, all of our churches are assigning tasks to one another and taking notes in the database. But we ask the question, what's the point? Why are we doing that? So with me is Michael Faulkner. Before I kick it to Michael, I'll introduce myself real quickly for anyone that doesn't know me. My name is Andrew Triplett. I am Director of Consulting here at TouchPoint Software. It is my job to come alongside our church partners and work one-to-one with them, helping them with new initiatives that they might be putting in place within TouchPoint, or just want to learn a little bit more about a particular feature, things of that nature. That's what I do. And so, like I said, with me is Michael Faulkner. So, Michael, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name, as Andrew said, is Michael Faulkner, and I lead the solutions team here at TouchPoint. So really, my job is to just make sure that we and our potential church partners are aligned as well on the front end as we possibly can to ensure a very long-term and very successful relationship between us and, again, our partner churches. So very glad to have you, excuse me, to have you today. Thank you.
All right. Little bit of housekeeping just before we get started. As always, and I think most people are familiar with the concepts, but as always, we will have time at the end for Q&A. As we're going through the presentation today, if you have questions, go ahead and just click on the Q&A button down there at the bottom in the Zoom control panel, and we'll be happy to address your questions as we can. And like I said, we do have time left over at the end for any additional questions. So with that quick agenda here for us, first we're going to do what's the point of taking notes, why notes are important, real world examples. Michael's going to take us through that, and then we'll do the same thing, the same exercise for tasks. And then we're going to close things out today by, I think a lot of you know by now that one of the big initiatives for 2021 for TouchPoint was to enhance our task and note capabilities within TouchPoint. I have the latest updates for you there. I'm actually going to, we're going to get away from the slides, and we're actually going to dive in and do some real world tour of the new features. So hopefully you're excited about that. We will be going through that. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Michael, and he's going to talk about notes.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you to whoever just texted me and said they wished I had a happy birthday a week ago. I wish I could tell you you're in my phone, but unfortunately not. But it means a lot to me either way. So thank you for that. And thank you for joining us today as well. So yeah, I'm going to be really talking mostly about kind of high level, real world, why do we care about taking notes? Why do we care about tasks? It sounds like such a simple idea or concept, and almost like, why would we even spend time on it? But really, the more you start to revisit the reasons behind it, the more you realize just how much value there is, and kind of having a strategy and a game plan in place. William, thank you. You're the best. Man, you really are the best. Love you, man. All right. So anyway, and thanks for joining. So as far as why taking notes is important, let's just kind of talk about a couple of things, because it's very easy for us to just assume that I'm an intelligent guy. I've got an education. I could remember things, right? And that's what we all want to say. But the reality is, it's not a question of whether we're capable of remembering things. It really just comes down to how much can we handle at one time. I mean, someone try to memorize pi in the next 2 or 3 minutes, and it's just not going to happen. It's too much data. So it really gives us the ability to retain the information that comes from a meeting and then go back and review it so that it's sinking in, right? And then another reason, of course, is there are people sometimes that need visibility into meetings but are not able to participate in those meetings. So being able to have notes that we can share with them helps tremendously in those situations. And then being able to document patterns. So this is where we kind of start getting really into ministry. A lot of you are talking to people on a regular basis, maybe once every week or once every month or so, about particular issues they have. And we all know that in our first meeting, our guard's a little up, we're putting our best foot forward. But after we get to know somebody and that guard comes down and our true personality comes out, we see that patterns change in our behavior over that time frame. So having notes that are documenting that can be very, very helpful as you're trying to minister to those individuals. And then obviously being able to follow up with someone after a long period of time. I mean, my family and I actually visited a church we were members of 15 years ago. You know, if they have notes from us from 15 years ago about our kiddos and you know, things that we were involved in at the time, that could really help them reassimilate us back into the church. So those are just some high level reasons why taking notes is important. Now let's talk a little bit about how you would want to go about taking notes specifically. So the first 2 points here on how to take quality notes actually almost seem like they conflict with each other, right? You know, be detailed, but be concise. Well, we all know the famous saying, and everyone's going to have their own mindset about who said this. But a famous person once said, "I've made this much longer than I intended to because I just didn't have the time to make it shorter." Now, I probably should have set up a survey to see who knows who said that. Some of you are probably saying Ben Franklin. Some of you are probably attributing it to a president. I think the most common answer is Blaise Pascal. I don't think anyone really knows. They probably should have taken better notes on who said that. But sorry for the little pun there. But anyway, the point is well taken. That being able to be concise is not easy. It actually takes practice, but it's important. It really is, because you want to be able to keep your audience. You want people to want to see those notes if they're trying to conduct ministry with maybe an extended family member of the person that those notes are about. The third point is making sure they're universally understood, right? So, you know, FYI, YOLO, LOL, you know, that kind of vernacular is not really going to translate with at least half your audience, if not more. So being sure that those notes are going to be followed by everybody that's on there. By the way, I said, for your information, you only live once, and then I laughed out loud for those of you who had no idea what I was saying just then. And then obviously, it's really important to be able to have a date and timestamp because, well, I mean, that kind of goes without saying, right? I mean, I literally just got off the phone 3 hours with someone, and they're asking me, okay, when did this happen? And I was trying to recall off the top of my mind, and I couldn't come up with the exact date. So having that kind of stuff dated and timestamped can be very, very important as well. All right, so let's use a real world example. And this will kind of, I guess, validate my initial point about it's not enough to just be intelligent. It's not enough to have a good memory. You know, when you think about doctors, these are some of the most intelligent people in the world. No one's going to argue with that. The amount of information that they have in their heads is it's enviable, to be frank with you. But there's not a person on this call who's probably ever been in a doctor visit or gone to a doctor and didn't see that doctor taking notes about whatever the issue was that you were discussing with them. And it's important not only for them to be able to go back and review next year when you come back and see them, if it's a physical, or next week if it's an issue that needs immediate attention. But it's also important for their staff to be able to review. When you call into the office and you ask questions of the nurse, they're going to want to see the notes. That nurse wasn't necessarily in on that initial visit, right? But to my point earlier, they want to have visibility into that. Or what if that doctor refers you to a specialist? Well, that specialist is also going to want that insight as well. So again, a great example of how it's not an indictment on your ability to remember things when you're taking notes. It's really just best practices. And as it relates to ministry, I think that is a fantastic example. Doctors being a fantastic example of how you need to follow up, but you also have other people who need visibility. And I'm going to just tell a quick story. When I joined TouchPoint originally, I met with one of the ministers from my church. And I asked this person, basically what I wanted was to just understand what a day in the life of a staff member was. I said, if I'm going to be, representing a software company that essentially helps churches, I probably need to know how churches need help. And so he was kind enough to sit down with me and just let me pick his brain. And I asked him, how many people do you meet with per week, just on a ministerial basis? His response really blew me away. He said, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3, but you're my second or third meeting today, and I still have another one after we wrap up. I thought, how in the world are you able to follow up effectively from a ministerial standpoint with 4 people that you met back to back to back to back a week from now when you're trying to remember what you talked about? And he said, I'll be frank with you, that's my biggest challenge. Because even though I could take notes, I don't have that opportunity. I'm too busy. So being able to give yourself space for notes, or give yourself capabilities for notes, whether that's technology or just space that you build in, is critical, because this person means well. This person is an amazing minister when it comes to really relating and feeling compassion for the person he's ministering to. But as it relates to being able to follow up effectively and remember a lot of the key points that came up in a meeting from a week ago, it's a huge challenge for this person. So really being able to be effective in ministry is one of the primary reasons that we really drive home the point of taking good notes in ministry. All right, so let's go ahead now and we'll transition over to tasks. So that was the notes side of things. On the task side of things, it's a little bit different, right? What we're talking about now is actually getting things done. And a way that we see tasks and notes working together is in what's called the Getting Things Done methodology by David Allen. And he has 5 fundamental steps in getting things done effectively. So the first is capturing information. All right. So this is, to me, a very important point in so many areas of our life. The moment that idea crosses your mind, if you can capture it some way, you're going to be a step ahead. Well, how many times have you been tossing and turning at night, staring at the ceiling because so much was rattling around in your head and you just couldn't let it go? Well, I find that if I've got my phone next to me and I can quickly dictate a note into my phone, or if I've got a notepad where I can write it down, it really puts my mind at ease, because now I know and have the confidence that tomorrow morning I'm going to go back and revisit this. It's not going to be forgotten. It's not going to escape my memory. So it gives that peace of mind. I know this isn't about trying to capture sleep, but same thing can go for in my quiet times. Sometimes I can't get, when I'm spending time with God, I can't get my mind to just stop thinking about the world. Well, if I have a notepad right here, I can start jotting those things down, which again gives me the peace of mind of knowing I'm going to come back and revisit that. It's not going to be forgotten. So if you have a mechanism for very quickly recording everything that has your attention right now, you can then move into the next step, which is clarifying, condensing that information into actionable information. Then the third step of the process, of course, is organizing by, determining, are we going to delegate this task to someone? Do we have a follow-up date for it? Ultimately, you're going to want to engage in this task, which means you're going to be acting on it. So, a lot of people will keep lists, and they'll put, A, B, C to prioritize those lists. I'll be frank with you, I found that to be a very, very effective approach in my life as well. But anyway, the whole point is this methodology that David has is really effective in making sure that we're capturing ideas that we're then able to organize and ultimately act on effectively. So the last 2 points I want to make are about ultimately, what is a task? How do we delegate it? And and it's actually 3 points, is how do we delegate it? And then the life cycle of a task. So ultimately, when you boil it down from a ministerial standpoint, a task is a bullet point on your to-do list, which you could rename to say it's a ministry or outreach opportunity, right? So again, very important to make it concise, something that you can plan out, but ultimately assign to other people. Because if you try to take it all on yourself, we all know we're going to get weighed down. We become the jack of all trades, master of none, right? And then as we talked about with date stamps, you also want to put a deadline on those tasks. So again, as it relates to assigning or delegating tasks, if you think about it, when you're on a team, the workload is delegated to appropriate team members, really to focus on on skill sets, and to really just make sure that the workload is even and not overbearing on one individual. And the same concept really works for tasks. We want to guarantee that our tasks will be completed by assigning them to the person. And I've already moved on to the next one. Sorry, Andrew. But being sure that you're assigning them to the appropriate person that's ultimately going to follow up on that. And then finally, just talking about the life cycle of a task. So this is ultimately where notes are going to come full circle. So sometimes as we complete a task, we realize that a follow-up task is needed, right? I mean, always happens to me anyway. So making sure that your notes are updated and that they stay relevant is going to help us when we're creating these follow-up tasks, even if we're following up at a much later date. All right. So that's just a high level look at notes and tasks. Hopefully that was just probably not brand new information, but a helpful reminder of some of the things that can really help us make our days much more efficient and make our ministry, more importantly, make our ministry much more effective. So again, I used to work for a guy who called what we did, he said, you try to avoid playing office. And what he meant by that is try to avoid being busy all day long without actually effectively getting anything done. And if you go back to my example of the minister I talked about earlier, that is a busy guy. I mean, he is meeting with so many people, but unfortunately, his effectiveness could really improve significantly if he just had a better way of managing his tasks and taking notes to follow up on. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Andrew, and we're going to talk. This will be relevant to those of you who are already TouchPoint users, or if you're just curious how TouchPoint enables our partner churches to be more effective as it relates to tasks and notes, you might get a kick out of this as well. So Andrew, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
All right, thanks, Michael. All right, so that's great information. It reminds me of a quote from one of my favorite pastors who said that he was talking about taking notes during a service, but I think it works well here. He used to say, "The dullest pencil is sharper than the sharpest mind. The dullest pencil is sharper than the sharpest mind." So, when it comes to tracking and making sure that we are caring for people well, TAS is a great way to do that, because down the road, when they come back, maybe they leave the church for 10 years and then come back, we still have those notes there. So with that, let's talk about the direction that we're headed within the system. And like Michael said, for our current church partners that are on the call today, this will be particularly interesting to you, because you'll get, some of you may have seen a little bit of a sneak peek on this, but for others, this might be brand new. You'll get to see kind of the direction that this is headed. And for those of you that aren't partnering with TouchPoint just yet, I hope that you can take something from this as well. Just kind of a glimpse of, here's our approach to ministry as it pertains to taking notes and setting tasks for an individual within the database. Okay, so first thing I want to do actually is show the old stuff first, to kind of give you a sense of where we were and where we're headed, so you kind of get an idea of some of the decisions that were made in enhancing these features. The features are brand new, so it's not really a new iteration on the old. It is brand new technology, but some of the concepts are going to remain fairly similar. Okay, so this is the current state. Again, our church partners, this page is going to look somewhat familiar to you, but in the past, you came to this page and you went to the ministry tab, and then you had to do a little bit of a calculation. There's 4 potential tabs you could go to find the information that you're looking for. So it could be a little bit tricky. Am I looking for contacts that this person received? Am I looking for contacts that this person made? Tasks about this person, tasks assigned to this person. A little bit tricky, a lot going on there. All right, so not a great page to navigate. Further, the task page, the task search page presented you with a list of the tasks within the database, fairly long list and a little bit overwhelming. So I'm going to kind of show you the side by side on this. And then finally, before I do that, one last thing that I want to mention here is, as far as completing a task, if I were to come here and select the task itself and complete this with a contact, again, the page is a bit overwhelming. There's a lot to do here, and you have the ministry drop down, the contact type, the contact reason, the limit to role, and then the comments. So some different things going on there. So that's current state. Now let's talk about new state. All right, where we're headed. So on the people record now. Oh, and I want to give a caveat before I get too far into this. As always, with any demonstration of new features, these are features that are in beta, which means that they are not complete. Some of the things you're about to see could look a little bit different when it is released in its final state. So keep those in mind. The test environment that I'm working in is actually going to be a little bit slower than it will be when it was finalized as well. So if you see any slowness, that's what's going on there. So anyway, just want to give that caveat on at the top. Okay, so first thing that I want you to see is that we have a brand new tab. So previously, within the people record. If I go back to that real quick, you saw that I was on the ministry tab. Now we have this brand new TouchPoints tab. So we are using our own name within the database, which is really exciting after all these years. The name of our company is represented in the system, which is kind of cool. All right. Now, again, where in the past you had the contacts about, contacts received, all that stuff. Now we have that distilled down to 2 options. These are, I'm on Zach Page's record. Therefore, what I'm about to see are things about Zach or things owned by or assigned to Zach. All right. So here's what Zach owns. This is what he's been assigned. And then here are things that are specifically about him. Notice notes being one of those. So these are notes that have been taken about Zach. In this case, Zach is a member of the adult choir and tried out for a solo, just something like that. Previously within TouchPoint, there were a few different places to take notes. There wasn't one great place to do it. We had a lot of people using extra values to do it. And we're really trying to get out of that mindset, get away from those use cases, and move those things like extra values over into notes, so that you can come here and this is a pretty short list for now. But if I were to search on this, I want to search for anything pertaining to Zach's choir history. I just type in choir, and there's every note or task that exists about Zach and the choir. Okay. So more about that in just one second. Obviously this page is going to get rather lengthy because you're going to have a lot of notes about this person. So we want you to be able to find pertinent details very quickly. All right. Now, as great as this view is, where we anticipate you spending the bulk of your time dealing with tasks and notes is up here under people and then tasks and notes. Okay. So I'm going to jump over here to tasks and notes. All right, so this is a comprehensive list of all of the tasks and notes in your database. Now, what's great about this page is all the action that can be done here. I mean, this is kind of your one-stop shop. This is your hub for everything related to tasks and notes within your database. First things first, search. With all of these tasks and notes in here, how do I find what I'm looking for? This search is super robust. There's a lot that you can do with it. If I'm looking for a particular person, as I kind of scroll down through here, I see our friend Aaron Spalla. He's one of our awesome developers here at TouchPoint. I see that he has a few notes. Now I'm just going to come up here to the search and I'm going to type AA, and boom, there's Aaron. But of course, you're probably going to have a lot of Aarons in your database. So if I just type Aaron Spalla, you see it's not changing because we've already culled it down to just Aaron. But there we go. So it is a super robust search. Now, beyond that, I can also search based on just the content of the notes, right? Because that's useful as well. So just looking down here, looking for one that's kind of unique. Well, this is kind of unique here, JJHHG. So clearly this is being used for testing purposes. Aaron probably just slapped the keyboard to produce JJHHG, but let's do that real quick. Let's search for that. So I'm going to type in JJH, and you can see by the time I get to H, it's already there. So it's not only searching for the name of the person, it's also searching for the content within the note, which is going to make finding the information you're looking for super simple. All right. In addition, even more search capability. If the keyword search there, or I shouldn't use keyword, I'm going to get the keywords here in just a second. But if that search criteria isn't working for you, we have all this other search criteria to work from. Okay. Who created the note, who has been assigned the note, who is the note regarding, or task for that matter as well. Due dates, created dates, roles. So we've retained the concept of limiting these to roles. So if this is a note or a task of a certain sensitivity, we don't want just anyone being aware of these. We can limit those to members of a particular team, like our pastoral care team, staff team, some group of lay leaders, something like that, so that not everyone is going to have access to that information. Okay. And then finally, the type, whether these have been completed, pending, accepted, etc. Okay. Over here right now, obviously I'm looking at all of my tasks and notes, but I can just limit this. I just want to take a look at open tasks. what's out there, what's pending. So this is a great way for you, your administrative team, your executive team, to be able to implement this and follow up with, hey, what tasks are still out there? What needs to get done? What ministerial tasks need to be getting done at this point? And then what's been closed? What's already done. Okay. All right. And then in addition, the last couple things you can do on this page I want to talk about is mass actions. Okay, so great way for to take mass actions. I can highlight or just select all, or I can just select a few that I need to take action on here. And then the caret drop down allows me to assign these to someone different. I can mark them as complete all at once. I can archive these or delete these. So the concept, you're probably familiar with that concept, but archive means I don't want to see them, but I want to hang on to them. Delete means I just need to get rid of them. That was for training purposes. We created a task for Daffy Duck. Now we just need to delete it. Okay. And then add keywords. I'm gonna come back to keywords in just 1 second. That is a really, really important new concept. And then finally, export to Excel. So the executive team, they just need a report, just an Excel file of all the most recent contacts that have been made. What I might do is come here and just create that search to see what's been done in the last couple weeks, and then hit that export so that I have them all in one place. All right. Now, the last thing that you can do from this page is create a task and create a note all from right here. Hallelujah. So no longer do I have to navigate to the individual's record just to create that task note. If I'm already there, through the course of my just everyday browsing throughout the database, I can of course create a task or note right from the person's record. But now I can do it from here because, again, this is kind of what we pictured as being your hub, your place that you're going to spend a lot of time working within the system on tasks and notes. So let's say in front of me, I just completed a phone call. I called my friend and just checked in on him. So I'm going to go ahead and select Add Note. Now I'm going to indicate who this note was about. In this case, this note was about him, and this accepts partial search. So if I type in just a J, there's a J joiner. That works just fine. I'm going to hit Enter. So this note is about Jay. If there was someone else that here's Jay's wife, Dorothy, I can include her in on the note as well, all at one time. Note details, just what it sounds like. I'm going to indicate this was called to check in on the joiners. They're doing great. All right, that's all we really need there. Now, keywords. Okay, so I've teased this concept a couple times. Now, remember, going back to previous state, remember if I went to go complete a task, here's all these things that need to be filled in, and you cannot complete this task until all these things are filled in. Well, now with the new concept, we are moving away from that, and we are moving to the concept. Oh, if I can find my screen there we go. We're moving to the concept of keywords. So what this is this is now incumbent on you and your team to make sure you're setting good processes to indicate keywords so that we can search on this later. So in this case, this was a call, and this was pertaining to pastoral care. And I might just throw one more on here. We discussed prayer requests. Those are completely customizable by you and your team. And we anticipate that being a pretty long list. So this is, you can type here. So one of my teammates created pizza. So I'm going to type in Pizza. There we go. Now pizza has been added as a keyword. So again, those are great tools for being able to find all of the notes that you are, that have been created. Now the owner here, I'm logged in today as Zach Page. That's why the owner is set as Zach Page. But maybe if someone else made this call, I could add them as well. Due date is automatically set to today because that's when the system assumes it happened. And then there's that concept again of limit to role, where I can limit this to pastoral care or staff notes or whatever other roles that you might have on your team. So
hey, Andrew, on that note, there was a specific question about that. And I just wanted to be sure and point out that that's where it's getting answered. The question was, how do you assign permissions to the note? So if you don't mind just kind of reiterating that specific point.
Absolutely. So the question is, again, pertaining to this limit to role. concept here. Now we have a special setting on the settings page that indicates which roles are going to be presented here. You do have the ability to create new roles. So I have taken the time to create pastoral care and staff notes. You could have, the sky's the limit. It can be whatever you want it to be. And then you indicate within the settings which of those roles appear here. So it could also be existing settings, something like admin that's really locked down on your team. So a lot of options there. All right, so I've created a task. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a note as well. Or excuse me, I've created a note. Now I'm going to create a task. So it's the same concept, same concepts that we just walked through. So if I type in there's Jennifer Glass. So this task is about Jennifer. Please follow up with Jennifer, something like that. And then I'm going to set keywords here. And this time I'm going to set keyword to hospital. So maybe this is a hospital visit. So I'm going to set that to that keyword to hospital. Again, I'm set as the owner for now because I am the one that's logged in, but I'm going to go ahead and find someone else to assign this to. So we'll do Paul. He's the owner. Assignee, that's kind of the concept of the delegate that we had previously. And then we can also set a due date on this as well. So we'll set this for August the 26th. All right. So there we are. Now that task is at the top. Now I'm going to go ahead and complete this task for the sake of our demonstration. So this is a somewhat new feature. It actually exists today, but not a lot of people are familiar with this concept. I'm going to go ahead and complete this. Now what I'm doing is, since I'm completing this task, I'm going to indicate the note details. We did a hospital visit for Jennifer. She's recovering well. All right. So now the keyword, remember, was hospital. Now, by virtue of the fact that our keyword was hospital, the system is asking what we call custom questions. All right. So first, the system wants to know, hey, what hospital was this? So I'm going to go ahead and select the downtown hospital. The room number was 214. Those are questions that were pre-configured prior to me completing this task. So that is an awesome feature. We really want to see people using that. So let's take just a minute. I'm going to talk about how that was created.
Can I ask a question before you get going?
Yeah, far away.
How far out can you set a task?
On due date?
Yes.
I have not seen a limit. It's greater than 1 year, greater than 5 years, and I don't know how much further it goes beyond that.
And then can it set a reminder for that?
There is a reminder email that is sent. Yes.
Okay. And then the last question on that, what about assigning it to multiple people?
A task is designed to be assigned to one person at a time, right? So that the person who is assigned the task does have the ability to delegate that. So for example, if a task is owned by, say, the youth pastor, but he needs to assign that to a youth intern, he certainly can't do that. But the task itself is designed to exist for one person at a time. All right, so really good question. All right, so this is a new page in the system. Going back to keywords, if I go to administration and then lookup codes, we have a page for keywords. All right, a couple things to talk about here. Let's say I need to create a new keyword. All right, maybe we have hospital visit on there, but we don't have home visit just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and select add keyword. It adds it to me to the bottom for me. I'm going to give this a code. I'm going to call this HV for home visit. There we go. And my keyword here is home visit. All right. Notice that we also have over on the right-hand side, we have this actions where you can merge and delete these so that if there's some redundancy here or we just don't need a keyword anymore, we can hit merge and delete. And that will allow us to merge from one keyword over to another and then get rid of the one that we no longer need. All right. So when you set up your keywords, you're not stuck. You're not stuck on a rigid structure. You can always modify that. All right. Now I have my home visits created. Now you'll see in this column questions. What questions are we going to ask? Right now there's 0 questions associated with this, but I'm going to go ahead. I do want to ask some home visit questions. So we'll create a header here. We'll say the header is home visit questions. Very creative. I can limit to role there, just like you're seeing throughout the system, the ability to limit this. So again, if these are questions that are somewhat sensitive, then we can limit who sees these. All right. So I have my header, and now I'm going to set maybe yes, no question first. Does this person need groceries? Something like that. Okay. So now we're whenever this is completed, our staff can be alerted when maybe one of our homebound members needs some groceries, needs some follow-up, things of that nature. And notice that on these question types, there's a ton of flexibility. So instructions text, single line text, multi-line text. You know, if we need a full paragraph, tell us about this person's testimony or something like that. You can add all kinds of information there. Maybe drop down. The way the drop down would work might be something like this. And let's see here, I need another creative question for this. How long has this probably isn't the perfect question, but how long has this person been a member? Something like that. Again, not the best use case here, but we'll put in a few years there, so they can indicate what year. But I just want to convey the ability to do a drop down there. So we're actually relegating the person who's answering to a specific set of responses. Okay. All right. So there we go. So now I have created those keywords, and now the next time that I go and complete a task, complete a note that has the keyword home visit, I'm going to be asked those questions. All right. Now, the very last thing that I want to mention, and then I do see we have some questions coming in that I want to help address if I can. But the last thing that I do want to mention is I'm really, this is one of those small enhancements that I think is going to make a big impact on you and your church. We all know that for every ministry you have, you probably have about 10 spreadsheets that are out there of people who just jot things down in a spreadsheet real fast. You can't get to that information because it's not in the database and it's just all over the place. You need to get that into one place. The database is where you need to have it. So we have now created the import tasks and notes page. So you will be provided with kind of a schematic or a template of how we need that Excel spreadsheet structured. But what it's going to allow you to do is create a single spreadsheet. You'll use the individual's ID so that you can indicate who this note or who this task pertains to, and then import those tasks and notes to get everything under one roof. So if you have, the senior adult department, they're using a spreadsheet that's not part of the database and you can't get them off of it, that's okay. They can keep doing it. But now you have the ability to import that on your own so that TouchPoint truly becomes your system of record with everything in one place. All right. Okay. I think that's everything I wanted to get through. Checking my notes here, but I think I got to everything on my list. I hope that you're excited about those features. We're super excited to be rolling them out here in the coming days and weeks. So let's see here. I'm going to take a look at the questions. Michael, any questions that are?
No, I was going to so yeah, I mean, if you just want to start with Julia White, I think she's been waiting the longest.
Okay.
And then move on down from there. Sorry, Julia, didn't mean to mention your name. I don't. I guess you're already on the comments. Everyone can see it anyway.
Okay, so Julie is asking a question that that's somewhat addressed by this import tool. So basically, what Julia is asking is her and her team, they have been using the comments section on the individual's record to take their notes, which is a fine place to take it, to take notes. What you can do is you can export those comments into an Excel spreadsheet, configure it the way that we'll be providing a template for, and then import those so that you can get those all converted. So when we do roll this out, you might have a little bit of a lift there. Might just take a few hours to get that to get all the information compiled, get it imported. Probably the biggest lift there is just kind of training the team that, hey, we were doing things in comments. Now we want you switching over to notes.
And I'm responding to a note, but actually I want to be sure I'm answering it correctly. The question was, can we enter notes through the app or only when signed in on the computer? And my understanding is version 1 is just the computer. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So for now, version 1 is the web portal that we're showing right now, but following fairly close behind it is going to be the same module with native to the custom app.
Great. And then we have several asking just when is this going to be rolling out?
Yeah. I figured the timeline would be of particular interest to a lot of folks on the call. I can't give you a firm date, but as you can see from the demonstration today, the feature is very, very close, very, very close. There's a few things to get smoothed out. Obviously, testing is a key component there as well. Testing is already underway to make sure that we are not affecting any other functionality. This is a brand new feature, so it should not be affecting other functionality. But we need to make sure that is all ironed out. So I can't give you firm details beyond just summer. I'll say summer and leave it there.
And I'm going to ask Shauna, if you want to stick around a little bit, we can go back and revisit the import. I want to address a few questions for those who might need to drop off. Will the ministry tab disappear when this is rolled out?
Yes, that ministry tab will go away. So you're probably wondering, hey, what's going to happen to all my current tasks and notes? Those are going to be converted at the same time. So when we flip the switch, all of those task notes will be converted to their counterpart within the new module, within the new task note. So you're not going to lose any data. It'll all still be there.
Great. Mary asked, when you set up a task with the keyword hospital, will the custom questions show up right away? And she elaborated, she creates a task for someone and can automatically include the hospital and room number for the person that she's assigning it to, is what she's asking.
So what we would have you do there, it would be to just go ahead and put that into the notes of the task. So for example, if I were to create a task here that I want Carter to go ahead and visit this person in the hospital, I would say, please make your hospital visit, and then just indicate for that person, room 215, hospital central, something like that. Oops, if I can spell. Okay, and then I set my keyword. So the keyword does not appear, or the questions on the keyword do not appear until the person is completing this. So there we are. So now if I come here and complete this, as I'm completing it, that's when the additional questions are asked.
Great. Emily, I'm going to ask you to stick around with Shauna. Both are just asking, hey, can you review something that we've looked at? But I just want to help others who need to run get their questions answered. So I want to be sure I didn't miss anything.
I see Emily's asking, can you search multiple keywords? Yeah. The answer is yes, of course. So here I am on the tasks and notes page again. If I come here and select keywords, maybe I'm looking for all of, well, I don't want to do card. I will do choir and call and search on that. There we go. So there's any tasks and notes that were either a call or choir related.
All right. You want to read Annalisa's comment from 2:43 p.m.?
Sure. Okay, so Annalise asks, when I am in an involvement list, there's a pencil where I can take notes. Those notes have not transferred to the master list of notes. So that is correct. So do these streams consolidate? So that is correct. those are separate. Those notes exist on their own within the involvement. And the reason for that is because those notes are meant for notes about the person as they pertain to the involvement itself, not necessarily to who they are within our church, if that distinction makes any sense. So what that might be is when I do a registration for summer camp 2021, we might put a note within the involvement just indicating this person registered for this involvement on such and such date, and then we gave them a discount several days later because they met certain criteria, something like that. So the information pertains to the involvement itself, whereas these notes are more global, more holistic about who they are as they pertain to our church.
So the next question, Andrew, is Shauna wanted to, there we go, asked, can you show me again how you got the import? She had missed it.
Okay, yeah. So that page, again, I do want to point out this doesn't exist today, so you won't see this in your database. But if you'll look at my screen here, if you go to administration, there's going to be a new page on administration called Upload Tasks and Notes under Batch Actions. Upload Tasks and Notes. We are going to be giving a lot of heads up on this. So you're not going to leave on Friday and come in on Monday and just kind of be blindsided. So we will be giving you firm dates as soon as we have them so that you can be prepared and be notifying your teams.
All right. Will we have to go back and insert keywords into all of our previous tasks and notes, or is this the idea of merging the keywords to clean up the previous designated categories?
Okay, all right, good question. We're going to be using those different criteria that you already have to exist as your keywords. So, for example, if I can do this somewhat quickly. So, for example, if you have this ministry set to evangelism, for example, that then becomes the keyword.
Loved having you. Thank you for joining us. And we do this once a month. It's always a new topic. And again, the point is always, what is the point? We're asking, why do we do certain things in church?